We're going to cover 3 different databases today. We're going to touch on Pubmed. In particularly, I'll show you how to access Pubmed from Pubmed Central and the differences between those two. We're going to look at Ovid Emcare, which is a really great database for nursing, health sciences, and even social work. And then we will also look at Cochrane and the tools for that one as well. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So the library's webpage, if you're not familiar with it, you can just, you can either Google Waters Library and it'll take you here, or you can go to etamu.edu/library. If you click on the database tab, there's a couple of different ways you can gain access to the databases we'll cover today. If you know how to correctly spell them, you can be more than welcome to type them in here. So I usually either go by the first letter of it, or since we are covering health science databases, I'm just going to go browse by subject. And the easiest one to use is nursing, because our top 3 of our databases we'll be covering are in the best options. So we do have Pubmed, Ovid, and Cochrane right here. Easy to access it. So I'm just going to access them all from this page. First up is going to be Pubmed Central, or Pubmed. A couple different ways you can just Google Pubmed and get here. But I'm going to click on Pubmed Central. Now, Pubmed Central is the open source database. So you have access to all these resources that are available here. So if you do a search, what pops up, you'll have access to it, regardless if you're affiliated with the university or not. And it's really great if you either know the exact title that you're wanting or the exact journal you're wanting. If you do notice that there is no like advanced search option here, and it doesn't immediately pop up the filters, I would suggest going to Pubmed instead of Pubmed Central. Since you're affiliated with the university, you do have access to something called interlibrary loans. So in the event that the article you're wanting is not on the open access portion of Pubmed, you can take the title and request an interlibrary loan. And that's accessed right here where it says interlibrary loan. It'll go through the steps on how to access it. We really just need the title and the author as a bare minimum. Any other information is more than welcomed. We have a wonderful interlibrary loan librarian who does really well about getting everyone access to the various articles, and we can usually get it to you within 24 to 48 hour business hours. So if the library is open, within 20 to 48 hours. Okay, so to access Pubmed from here, you will need to click on this icon up here in the National Library of Medicine, and these popular resources. So these are a lot of really great tools to explore, but today we're just going to focus on the Pubmed database. And then here it is. Looks very similar to Pubmed Central. Main difference is I do now have access to their advanced search. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. You can see that I have previously done searches in Pubmed and I have not cleared my filters. So that's a great tool with Pubmed. It does save any filters that you do. And it makes it quite obvious what filters are applied if you forget to clear those out. So for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and clear those out so we can start completely from scratch. A couple of things I want to point out in the advanced search when it comes to Pubmed. You do have the ability to choose which field you're actually wanting to search. So are you wanting to search the title, or you want to search for author, date, all of these different sections? What specifically are you searching for? So if you're wanting to find a particular mesh term, you have 3 different mesh major topic subheadings and the actual general terms itself. So you have all these different fields you can look for, or you can just look at all the fields. I usually keep all the fields and go from there. Okay, and we're going to go, I'm going to work with the PICO question, in school-age children, how does a nutrition program affect healthier eating habits within a school year? So basically what we're wanting to research is if I was a health professional at a grade school, so like a nurse or a counselor at a elementary school, and I wanted to implement a nutrition program to uh, improve the eating habits of the students. What information would I need to, or what research could I use to back up my plan when I go before the board and say, hey, let's implement this program. So looking at this, I'll take my terms. We're going to go with a nutrition program. Okay. I don't know why I pretend that I could spell. We're not going to try that. We're going to copy. And then we're going to paste so that I know it's already read. Now, I can keep this as just this particular phrase, nutrition program. Once I get started searching, I may notice that maybe I'm not finding exactly what I want. When I do that, I can break it up and have it nutrition and program rather than that exact phrase. But for now, I'm just going to have it as that exact phrase, and I'm going to add it to my search query here. And what this does is it builds the search for you. So you don't have to sit there and think, okay, where do I need to put this punctuation mark to make sure that I get the results that I want? You can just sit here, put each term in separately, and add it to your search before you actually search. So the next one we want to put is, maybe we want diet or eating. And of course, I could add, habits, behaviors, things of that nature. We're going to add those in. I'm just going to go with these terms starting out. That way I can see, all right, am I on the right track? Is it relevant? And also, what filters does PubMed have available to me? So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. Now, in most cases, you're wanting to put the population that you're working with. So for instance, school-age children. I'm already aware that PubMed has a age filter in here, so I knew that I did not necessarily need to put that as one of my search terms. But it is, of course, available if you are unaware of what filters are available. But PubMed does have an age filter. So I can come down here to additional filters, scroll down. It does have different ages. So if I wanted to do all children, I could. Or if, I really want to focus on the elementary children because, maybe I'm a nurse there, I can click on children that are from 6 to 12 years old, apply that to the search, and then it will, if you see the filters there, it tells me how many results I have, 233. The oldest result I have is from 1974. That is really, really out of date. But neat thing with PubMed is it does have set publication dates, or I can do a custom range. I wanted to go ahead and do the last 10 years just to kind of see what's there. Since we are now about 6 years out from 5 or 6 years out from COVID, I'm horrible at math apparently too. This will give me a range of pre-COVID, after COVID. Actuality, I'd probably want something a lot more recent, so I'd probably do a more custom range and go like the last 3 years. But for this purposes, we'll keep the last 10. So we do have a couple of different discussions. We have feeding disorders, nutrition in children and adolescents. We have some different mental applications for this. We have a particular nutrition program on children's knowledge and eating behaviors. That would be really relevant to my topic. So it'd be something I would want to look into. I could click on it and then start looking at it. I can verify what year it is. PubMed's really great about breaking everything down and showing the sections and kind of simplifying the review process when it comes to looking for health articles. So it does break it down. So you can have all of this. You can actually go in and look at the different comments that are made on it, similar articles, gives you all kinds of different information available when it comes to this information. It also gives you a way to access the full text of it. Now, this one we do have access to, or we should, because it's Wiley. So I can click on it and it will once verify that I am actually a human and not an AI robot, although some days I question that. All right, here we go. I have full access to the article through Waters Library, so yay. So I didn't have to do interlibrary loan or anything like that. I can do the PDF version of it, verify the DOI, all that wonderful information. Again, we have the summary, and then we go into the actual article itself. I'm going to go back to PubMed. A couple of things I want to point out with PubMed is that you do have the permalink. What's really nice about PubMed is usually their permalink and their URL are the same. That's not the case in all databases, but PubMed's nice enough to have it that way. We do have the ability to citate for a citation generator. Just like any other citation generator, please review this. Make sure that all the information is accurate before you use it. Make sure it is in the format that you need. Not only in the format you need, but make sure it's in the edition of the format you need. So is it APA 7th versus 6th? Is it, which APA is generally the format we use, but let's say you're using MLA. Is it an 8th? Is it a 9th? I think I got all those numbers right, but making sure that it's not only just the format, but it's actually the edition that you're needing. You can, of course, copy that, or you can if you're using a citation manager such as RefWorks or Zotero, you can download the bib file here and upload that, and it'll take the information, the metadata, and it'll pull all that into your citation manager. So you do have the ability to use citation managers when it comes to PubMed, which is another really great tool. We can also verify what publication trait. Another great place is it does list any mesh terms that are related to this. So it's another great spot to find more terms. If you find a really great article in PubMed, I would make note of the mesh terms, either adding it to your research log or to a separate document, because these terms can then be used in other databases such as Ovid or Cochrane. So some really great tools in PubMed. Okay, I'm going to go back to our search results. And so we have all these filters. If for some reason you want to go up here and you want to add more search, more terms to it, you can of course go back to advanced search. It shows you where your search is. So this was our original search. This was the initial filter that we applied. This was the final filter that we applied. You can also see how many results we started out with, how many we end with, and you can always go back to a previous search that you've done. And the neat thing is you can also download this history and search, so it keeps all of your your research log can kind of be just downloaded like that. So if you do forget to add this information to your research log, or you get so focused into the research that you forget to add it to your research log, you can hit that download button and then you have it saved that way. I'm going to head back to our wonderful database list, and I am going to move on to Ovid. So Ovid has a lot more features to it than PubMed. It also has several other resources. So if you notice, there are 4 resources listed here. We can look at all the journals that are available in Ovid, including the ones that the university has not, or the library has not purchased. And again, looking at all the journals, you can do interlibrary loan. So it's not a bad option as long as you have time available for that article to be retrieved. You can look at only the ones that we have access to. And then, of course, you can look into Emcare and the nursing databases separately, or you can look at all of them. Now, the reason why you may want to click on just one is that there are tools that are only available in, for example, Ovid Emcare. I'm going to go ahead and click on Ovid Emcare just so you can see those. So if I were to go to advanced search, so in Ovid Emcare, this is the only place you're going to see term finder. So this is another way to verify if the term is available here. So for instance, preschool, we can see what terms are actually used instead of preschool. If we're using a preschool child is used for all these various ways of saying this phrase. Of course, notes for it, what subheadings go with it. There's not for this term because it's very specific. And it gives you all of these different things you could add. If you're putting it here in Term Finder, it is actually being used as a mesh term, not just a general key term. And of course, we can also click on the particular one, such as preschool child. We can add it to we can either explode it or focus specifically on it. Or maybe we want to use it just as a general keyword, not a mesh term. We can, of course, choose that option. We can add it to our search since we didn't have anything else in the search frames. It'll pop up just by itself. Whereas if, let's say, and again, I am tempting to spell something that I know for a fact that I'm going to have trouble spelling because I've already had trouble spelling it. Okay, so let's say we want to look up nutrition next. All kinds of different ways for nutrition to be shown, including just by itself. Nutrition education is probably going to be more of the focus that we're wanting to look at. But we can scroll down here, see if there's anything specifically about programming or anything like that. I'm going to click on nutrition and nutrition education, and I'm going to add it to our search options. And you know what? We're going to add and with search. So if you notice here, we've now had it the and, so it's got to include preschool child and either nutrition or nutrition education. So I got to add both of those in at the same time in the format that it needed to be in without me having to remember what that format is. And if you look at the format here, compared to the format here in PubMed, you can see that they're different. And that one, because it's different databases. But by going to the advanced search option, you don't have to remember, again, you don't have to remember, okay, which databases uses what formula. The advanced search options in most databases will have that built in for you. So you can just go in step by step and not have to worry about remembering all of that information. And then we're just going to go through here that you can continue doing that as many times as you want. But in this situation, I'm just going to go ahead and search those. And like PubMed, where you had the terms listed, the results listed, you have that here too. But unlike PubMed, it goes ahead and shows you those results. It confirms what terms it was searching, the terms that you actually put in. And of course, we have our filters. We have the publication date, past 3 and 5 rather than your 5 and 10 that you saw in PubMed. We do have our different subjects. So if we want to filter it down further, we can look at publication type. So different filters are here. We don't have the age filters. That's definitely something that we would have to either put into our search terms here for this particular one. And we can start looking at the databases. Again, we have cite options, very standard, full text options. Again, those are very standard across databases. Okay, so if you want to use something like the term finder, you would have to go into actual Ovid Emcare. Now I am going to hopefully click back on the right button to get to Okay. We're going to go all the way back so I can click on all of them because my brain has blanked on how to pull up all the list of resources. So I'm going to go ahead and search all of them. because maybe I want to see what they are across the board. And I'm going to go again, advanced search. You notice that term finder is not there. One of the key features that I really like about Ovid, and it is the only database that I have that I am aware of that has this option, and that it has the option to be able to search a question. So similar to Google, where you can just type in a question, Ovid has the ability to do something very similar. But unlike Google, your question does need to be concise. So if you're using something like the Pico format, really great way to just take in that question, as long as it's actually in the Pico formula or using the Pico formula, putting it here and then searching it. This is only available in the basic search option. You cannot put it in advanced search. But if you are not really sure on like what question, not question, no questions, you're not really sure what your subject term should be, we can scroll down here and you notice that we have our question that we actually put here. It will actually pull the questions that, or it'll pull the terms that it used. These are terms then we can use to, one, make sure that that makes sense to be searching that term. Two, it'll also highlight it here so we can look at the title, we can then look at the information. This looks like this is in a language that I do not speak. So I would probably have to focus on making sure I'm looking for things that I can understand. But the option's there. We can look to see to make sure, all right, does that actually make sense? Does it follow? We then can use those terms in other searches. We did search multiple databases or multiple resources for this. So we do have to keep in mind that there may be duplications, things like that. And if there are duplications, what we can do is we can come up here to our topic, and I'm going to search for backtrack. I want to look at the limits and filters. My apologies. I skipped over this part. So Ovid in their basic search option does have an age filter. It is not present here. All right, so you click on edit limits and then select age. You can uncheck these other filters if you want. That's your choice. I'm actually going to unclick that one. So you have age. You can come down here, age group, click all those options, customize limits. So yay, I have age here as a limit, but I also have the age group specifically, so I can come down where it says 6 to 12, click that, yay. And now I can either put in the topic, for instance, why do I try to spell that word? Okay, so I'm just going to do a topic because this is a basic search and not a advanced search, so I don't necessarily need to put and all of that. So we're taking the nutrition program, which is, it searched it just by itself with no limits, and then we're limiting to just the children here, and it drops it down very little. So apparently a lot of people, research is focused on child nutrition programs. But again, let me click on, so maybe we want to add another topic in here, such as, let's see, one of the terms that we saw earlier in Pubmed, mesh terms, I think was feeding behavior. Let me go and check to make sure that's one of the terms. This is why you write those terms down. Yes, feeding behavior. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Come over here. Put it in there. I forgot to filter for age. That's okay. In this case, I just want to show you what it looks like. I'm going to click here and here. And then I'm going to combine them with and. So this is telling me, since I clicked on these, it's telling me that there are no duplications. If there were duplications in between in these, it would then pop up this button here. You could click on it and it would remove any duplications that were there. So you focus on the unique titles. In this case, they're not there. I can filter in with and. So we've now combined nutrition programs, limiting it to that age, and also feeding behaviors, and it is dropped down to 198 rather than this 6,000 plus. And we can come down here, we can look at, okay, what search terms is it using? It's, of course, using the 4 terms that we were looking at. Again, we can filter for the last 5 years. We've did it add the filters. Now we have come in here so we can look at these articles. We have access to the article itself. We have access to a summary, author information, which is really cool. Do note that we do have a AI summary. I'm going to say with this caveat when it comes to AI, please be careful, evaluate what you're reading. And when it comes to AI summaries of articles, I strongly suggest you read the abstract, as this is the description of the article based on the author's, like the author who wrote it. So it's going to be a lot more accurate and a lot more informative than the actual summary itself. But of course, there's nothing wrong with reading it and getting a general, and I do mean general, basic idea to be able to go from there. But again, please, if you use the summary, go back and read the article abstract itself too. You do have an outline here where you can go through each section and go directly to it, such as the data analysis. So Ovid does make it a lot easier to transverse the article and be able to look at that. You can also look at their references. We do have the ability to cite it. Again, it has the different formats, but it doesn't tell you which edition. So do please keep that in mind when you are copying these. One of the things I actually see that is inaccurate right now is that the APA is in title casing. Current edition of the APA should be sentence casing, if I am remembering correctly, for articles. So that could be something that you would have to take note of and make sure that your casing is done right and correctly. Because the generation is only using what information was put in. If these were typed in exactly how the title says, it's not going to be in the correct casing. You do have the options to create an account here, save the article, and create folders. All of that information is there. Now let's see if I can remember how to extract it to, okay. So if it's something like this, if I remember correctly, save to RefWorks words. Yes. So unlike Pubmed, which had a button to where you could save it, the bib file and upload it to your citation manager, Ovid does not have that. But what you can do if you're using a citation manager that has a browser extension such as RefWorks has the save to RefWorks, where it can pull that information as you see here. It'll tell me it's a journal article. Here's the title. Again, I would need to correct that and put it in the correct casing. Because all this information, I would just need to scroll down through it, verify it's correct information, hit save to RefWorks, it'll move it over, and I can move on with my research. And then I have access to it, I can go back to it. So that's a way to add it to your citation manager if you are using something like that. I'm going to go back to my search. Oh, okay. So if you notice, just clicking on number 4, my deduplicate has actually popped up. So I do want to show you what that looks like. I can click on it. It tells me to remove duplications. It'll tell me which ones have it. Apparently 5 and 6 have it from here. We want to find and edit that one. Ovid is being mean to me today. Why are you being mean to me? And continue. And then it removed all the duplications. So it went from 198 to 182. So there weren't many duplications, but they were there. Makes it a lot easier to scroll through this and make sure you have what you actually need. One of the things that I really like about Ovid is this, you have an evidence-based medicine filter. So you can look at these different, if you want to look at just the outcomes or just the systemic reviews or evidence-based medicine, you have that particular filter. But we also have point of care, which has guidelines in it. And patient education. So these are really great tools for looking at doing health research and looking for very specific things. Most of the other health databases that I have encountered don't have a specific filter for that. So this is a really great tool, just out of curiosity, or if maybe you're wanting to get some more general background information about a particular condition. You can look at the signs and symptoms, or maybe just the treatment for it, care plans for that particular condition, and you can just get some general background information, not just research articles. So it's a really great tool to utilize. Again, if you're using point of care, I would not place a question here. I would just do a topic search, such as a particular condition, and go from there. I will move on to our last database of the day. And I am just kind of touching on each of them just because I want a broad aspect for it. I could probably do an entire workshop specifically about just a singular database. So with Cochrane, advanced search is your best option. This is where you're going to get your tools from. The couple of tools I do want to point out to you is that, yes, it does have a PICO search. No, authors are not required to put their PICO terms if they're submitting something. Also, the PICO terms are not put there immediately, so use that to your discretion. But you do have the option of I'm going to push all the letters. It does have the option to pull up. Now, with the PICO search term, you have to select one of the terms from the dropdown. You can't just put whatever term you want. So it is very restricted, which makes sense because a PICO search is meant to be very, very focused, and it's a very formulated search. So that makes sense that they would control what terms you put in there. So again, an option. I would suggest going to looking at our medical subject terms. These are really great. Let's say we take our terms such as feeding behavior. It'll give us the actual term and a definition if you're not exactly sure. Let's say you're looking up a condition, you think you know which condition it is, you pop it in there, it'll give you a definition of it. We have some different synonyms. So again, these are other places to find key terms. Great tool. You come through here, it gives you all the different trees that it follows along with. So, what are we looking at? Are we looking at particular behavior, animal behavior, different types of feeding behavior, just all kinds of different directions it can go. We can either look at just this single mesh term by itself. So it is going to look specifically for feeding behavior rather than looking at all the possibility terms that are related to feeding behavior. I'm going to just go with single mesh term. And again, it shows me how many results are actually with that search term. So if I click on explode all the trees, you see that number just changed. And I'm just going to keep clicking back and forth. It does tell me that there are this many clinical trials and there are this many reviews based on this term. I'm going to go ahead and add it to our search manager. Come into a search manager. Oh, Lord, I did not clear all my search out. So like Pubmed, if you don't clear out that search, you'll have all of that to go for. So I'm going to add that back to my search term. All right, so again, we see our search term here. It does tell us how many are the results. Unlike Ovid, it does not display the results until you click on them. And then our results are separated based on whether or not what type they are. We do have publication date filters. We also have a topic filter. So these are kind of like your subject filters. So we can kind of see which direction are we in. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to add nutrition program. And because I'm not using this as a mesh term, I am going to put it in quotation marks. Although I think this one actually uses brackets. And again, all right, we have 608. If you notice this is not grayed out, I can actually go back up here and change that term as I'm searching. Whereas mesh terms, those are locked. I cannot change them. So I'd have to go in, make another line for that. We were using child, so I'll just put child. You can use it as a mesh term. So if I wanted to, I could come over here and type in child to verify that that is the term we're using. There's my mouse. There we go. Yep, child is used. It's used to describe a 6 to 12 age person. If we were going to use 2 to 5, we would need to use child, comma, preschool. So it does let us know that, hey, if you're looking for this age group, this is the term you need to put in. I'm going to go ahead and add that to Search Manager just so you can see the difference between using it as a mesh term versus using it as just a key term. Now, again, this doesn't change down here just because I went back up here and added terms. It stays on whichever search you had done originally. If you're wanting to combine searches, in this case with Cochrane, I strongly suggest looking at each term separately because then you can play with the terms a lot better. So I can come in here and I can do number 1 and number 2 and number 3. I'm just going to do those for now. So now we have only 14. It's very limited. I can click on that very easily to search that and go through it. These are all clinical trials that are going on right now because they're all in the clinical trials. So if you notice, PICO is not listed on option on any of these. Here's that lovely one that we were looking at earlier from Pubmed. We do have the abstract. Unlike Pubmed, which had everything separated out. Let me scroll up here. Nice, easy to see. Everything separated, bolded, made to wrong one. Make sure you are not confused of where things are. With this one, they are all compiled together, so you have to read it. You can't just go immediately to that one section. It does give you information about the article itself. We do have keywords, both of our subject heading keywords and then check words that verify. And then we just got our general terms that are related to this. Great place to find more keywords. Interesting enough, tomato is apparently one of their keywords. Now I'm curious about what the article says for tomato and to be a very specific key term, not just vegetable, but tomato. I'm going to have to read this article later on. So you do have all those different options. And of course, it tells you where it's sourced from. So if we wanted to, we could go into Pubmed, which is where it got from, and then have complete access to it. So not all of Cochrane is going to link to Pubmed. It's nice when it does because then we have the easy to access and then we can get to full text. Okay, so if you do notice that there is not a citation generator here, you're not going to really have that option. So with Cochrane, you're either going to need to do it manually. I don't remember if RefWorks connects to it. Okay, yeah, so you'll need to do it manually. Now, granted, if you do have a extractor like Save to RefWorks, you could go in and do the manual portion here. I know how to spell the word journal, and making sure everything's here. But if you notice, it did not pull anything but the title. and it tried to say it as a web page. So Cochrane is going to have to be one of the ones that you would need to do it manually if you're going from here. Again, if it leads you to PubMed, makes it a lot easier. But the main tool that I like is the fact that it has this ability to build your search terms up and you have those mesh terms. Now, the reason why we do the key terms here is that I can come up here. I've searched 1 and 2, but I can come up here and click or add here. Cancel that. I can come up here and let's say I changed my mind and I do want, let's see if we're gonna pretend that I spelled that correctly. Okay, so if you noticed, this changed and then this changed. So when you add those, or any changes you make will automatically appear here. And then you can click on it and it'll show the clinical trials that are specifically that have that preschooler term in it. And oh look, toddlers. Those could be another term. So yay. We do have a basic advanced search. So if you really do want to attempt to remember all of the formulas inputted in, you're more than welcome to try that. Search Manager just makes it a lot easier. You do have the ability to view or save searches, share searches, print that search history in the event that you do not add it to your research log immediately. So you do have those various options in this one as well. And I'm wanting to say Ovid has it as well. Yeah, save all, edit. Yep, okay. So you do have those options to save those search histories if you don't immediately get to have them all, done. Because if you're like me, you get wrapped up in the search process and you may not remember to update that research log immediately. So it's always good to be able to have different options to be able to save your terms. Okay, I covered a lot in the last 50 minutes. Does anyone have any specific questions for me now, or y'all just want to percolate on the information I have given you? Okay, if there are no questions, y'all have a wonderful day.